listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. This is your host, Tim Link, and I thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today is author, writer, and senior editor of Sports Illustrated, Jim Gorant. Jim will be discussing his best-selling book, The Lost Dogs, Michael Vick's dogs and their tale of rescue and redemption. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Jim about the book and the success it's had, and actually talking a little bit about what's happened to the dogs since all this happened. So we're excited to have Jim on board. So we're going to get right to him here in a second, but we're going to pause for a moment for a quick commercial break, give our sponsors a chance to talk to us and let us know what's going on. So we're going to be right back with Jim Gorant after these messages. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
We really love pets. There isn't anything we won't do to make sure they're getting the best products and the best care. So when you ask us a question like,
so how do you feel about cat condos?
We can say from experience,
feels like home for her.
Enter the code LUCKY10, LUCKY, the number 10, and get 10% off any order. No minimum at petco.com.
I don't make any decisions about who to hire without going to Angie's List first.
You'll find reviews on home repair to healthcare, written by people just like you.
With Angie's List, I know who to call, and I know the results will be fantastic.
Angie's List, who you can trust.
Go to angieslist.com/rights and get 25% off any subscription. That's angieslist.com/rights, WRITES.
Pet Life Radio presents Paranormal Pets, where you can always expect the unexpected. Each week we'll discuss all aspects of weird or spiritual animal encounters, ghosts, totems, psychic animals, animal souls, animal angels, and animals in religion, with a little cryptozoology thrown in. Step into the supernatural world of pets with your Paranormal Pets ghostly host, Dusty Rainbolt, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. This is your host, Tim Link. And joining me now is author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Lost Dogs, Jim Gorant. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here.
Oh, thanks so much. Congratulations on the success of the book.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very aware of it. We've got a lot of animal lovers here, obviously, and people that are involved in animal rescue. But tell us a little bit about the book, The Lost Dogs, and really how it all came about.
Well, it was sort of a happy accident. I was working at Sports Illustrated. We go through a cycle of time where I'm a little bit slower, and sometimes I look for things to write. And I was just doing some research about an NFL story, and I came across a small item about these dogs from the Michael Vick fight bust. And I had obviously followed the events when they first unfolded, but I think like a lot of people, just lost track of it. It all disappeared. And this was about a year after Michael Vick had pled guilty, and it just mentioned that these dogs were being put up for adoption, some of them, and being rehabilitated. And I just thought, well, what does that mean? How do you rehabilitate fighting dogs? And what do they mean by adopted? Are they going to be in homes with kids and other pets and all that? And it just seemed like some really interesting questions. And I also wondered, where had they been all this time? So I just started to look into it a little bit, and the more I did, the more interesting it got. And so I just kept going, and I wrote a story for Sports Illustrated, and the story turned into the book. And it's really, it chronicles all the behind-the-scenes stuff of the initial investigation. It basically starts from the day, the police arrived at his property and goes forward from there. And, a lot of stuff that I think even people who followed it somewhat closely don't realize how close the whole thing was to falling apart at several points, exactly how much it took to save the dogs and who was helping make that happen and who was not, and then the whole process of then, getting the dogs into new homes and rehabilitating them and working with them. So it details that from sort of start to finish, and hopefully it's both surprising and interesting.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing. Obviously, it was a hot topic when it all came down. Michael Vick, obviously being a NFL quarterback and a very well-known one in his prime of his career, really just on the uptake of his career. When all this came about, and now I'm based in Atlanta, so it's very close to my heart, and I was definitely on the doorsteps many times of the local legislature trying to get dog bills passed and anti-fighting bills, etc. So it really came to the forefront, especially down here in Georgia. But since that time, Jim, have you noticed anything? Have you tracked as far as the laws are concerned and some of the things that came out of the positive things that came out of the book?
Well, sure. I mean, one of the ironies is that about a week after Michael Vick his house was raided, they passed a national anti-dogfighting law, and had he been, the raid taking place a week later, that would have applied to him, but it did not, and so they had to find other ways to prosecute him. But on a larger scale, I mean, it's been from a law enforcement point of view, it really proved to law enforcement that these were good cases. That people were liked them. They were popular. They could get convictions, and that it's a gateway crime. And when you bust a dog fight, you find drug traffickers and gun traffickers, and people who are generally not up to good stuff. And also, there are studies that show that people who not even participate in this but just witness it become desensitized to violence. There's higher rates of spousal abuse, higher rates of child abuse. So it was a way to cut off a lot of bad acts by going after one in particular. And so there's definitely been an increase in the investigations and prosecutions of a couple of really big notable busts, multi-state kind of things that have taken place. And also, one of the things that took place in the wake of all this is there was an uptick in the reports of dogfighting, and some people initially thought that meant it was happening more, but what they've now sort of figured out is that it's not happening anymore, but people are reporting it more. Where in the past, where they might have turned a blind eye to it or not thought about it or not thought that there was anything that could be done. Now when people see it or hear about it, they're making the call, and that's all positive. It's all great, and hopefully you can sort of keep that momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is. It really brought a lot of things to the awareness of people. I think from a celebrity standpoint, people realize there's things that go on, and whether we're talking about sports stars or entertainment celebrities, there are things that go on behind the scenes that we don't know about sometimes. And the fact that actually something very positive can come out of something very negative. And I'm really applaud everybody for stepping up and actually speaking out for the animals.
Yeah, it's I say this sometimes, and it's in an odd way, Michael Vick is the best thing that happened to pit bulls and dogfighting, because he really, really shined a light on this, which probably would not have happened without him, and brought it out into public view, what had existed for so long in the shadows, and there's been progress, and hopefully it can keep going.
All right. Now, I have to ask, I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000 times, but have you talked to Michael Vick since the book came out?
I have not. I didn't interview him for the book because a couple of reasons. I mean, I knew when I first started working on it that he was not available. He was not giving interviews. Right towards the end, when he got out of prison and he had his reality show coming on, he was giving some interviews. But by that point, I was done. And I also felt like the book wasn't really about him. It was much more about the dogs. So I didn't have a chance to interview him during the course of the book. And then since then, I just haven't had much interest. I don't know that he would have a whole lot of interest in talking to me either. But so far, we haven't crossed paths.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I've seen some of the talks he's done at schools, et cetera, that they've televised and broadcast, but I really don't personally have a good take on what his thoughts are on the book or the dogs or anything after that point.
I can't imagine that he's read the book. He might be somewhat aware of it, but I don't imagine that it takes up much of his time. I know when he was out in San Francisco last year, there was a bunch of the dogs out there, and he was invited to come meet with them, and he declined. Beyond that, from what I've been told, I haven't attended any of his talks with the Humane Society, but I've been told he does a pretty good job with them, and he does them consistently, and the Humane Society feels like he is helping them reach an audience that they would otherwise have a hard time getting to. And so, hopefully that's all good. He testified this year in favor of some anti-dogfighting laws on a federal level, and he said for the first time, one of the things that I'd always been waiting for him to hear was that he wants to help be part of the solution to this problem now, and that's great if he can, and hopefully he will continue to do so. He has so far, and I think it's made a positive impact, and we could just hope that continues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got the stage and the form to do that, and I would think that hopefully he would be willing to do that for his own sake to help him continue to gain closure as well as get the word out, because he does have that platform. Now, in the book, obviously, a lot of the dogs went to various places, but quite a few of them ended up at our friends, Best Friends up in Utah. Did you get a chance to visit the folks up in Best Friends and talk to them about the dogs?
I have never made it out there yet. I spent a lot of time on the phone with a lot of different people out there, but haven't actually visited yet. But from what I understand, it's just a fantastic facility and a fantastic place to go to as well. It's ready to do cool stuff, but it's also a really cool place to visit, is my understanding. Yeah,
it's a beautiful place up there, and that whole part of upper part of Arizona going into southern Utah where they're at is, I think it is a very tranquil and spiritual place. If dogs and animals are going to go to heal, that's one of the best places to do it, and they definitely know what they're doing up there.
Great news out of there just recently, actually. 2 more of the dogs passed their CGC, their Canine Good Citizen test, which for both of them in this case, it was a court requirement that they had to pass that before they could be considered for adoption, and so they both passed. Georgia and Little Red. Little Red is one of the stars of the book. There's 5 or 6 dogs that really get focused on, and she's one of them. And so Little Red passed her CGC, and she's now been adopted. She's in a home with a family, and it's so great.
That's fantastic. That's great news to hear. How many of the dogs are with families right now?
It's always hard. It's always changing, so I never had the exact number. But we're about, I think, a little over 20 now that have been adopted.
That's amazing.
That's a pretty good percentage.
Absolutely. So obviously the dogs are very smart dogs, very smart breeds, and just with a little bit of love and tenderness and in positive direction, they're going to make it through, I'm sure, and find their right and perfect forever homes.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're all, one of the big messages of the book is that they're all these dogs are individuals, regardless if it's a Chihuahua or a Pit Bull or a Black Lab or whatever it is. And so, that certainly bears out amongst this group of 50 Pit Bulls. And, they're all sort of have their own stories now and they progress at their own rates or not. And so, it sort of gets harder and harder to make blanket statements about them as it goes on. But, some of them are doing exceptionally well. Some of them are still struggling, and a lot of them are in between. But, they're all sort of fighting their own battles now. And the key thing is that they have a chance, and they're getting the opportunity to, be normal dogs and have a life, which is great.
Absolutely. And the book, The Lost Dogs, obviously give them a great voice. I think you did a great job with the book. We're going to continue our conversation with Jim Gorant after we take a little commercial break. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
Love your pets but wish their medications were a lot less expensive? They are at 1-800-PET-MEDS. You'll not only save on flea and heartworm medications, but on prescriptions for arthritis, incontinence, thyroid, and more. And you get fast service, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Plus, our licensed pharmacists ensure accuracy, monitor drug interaction, and more. See why over 5 million people have trusted their pet's health to 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. Call now or order online.
Go to petmeds.com/lucky, LUCKY, to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more at petmeds.com.
How would you like your business to reach out and invite in our audience? We have a brand new trademark concept called InfoSeeds. InfoSeeds are short 20-second seeds of information about your place of business, practice, or service. Is the best, most cost-effective way to invite us in. We only have a limited number of slots left. For more information, visit the website
PetLifeRadio.com.
Click on sponsorship information. There you can listen to a sample of InfoSeed. Remember, only a limited number of opportunities are available.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan Blake here with my sidekick Super Smiley, the giant mutt and spokes dog for throwaways. You're listening to Pet Life Radio, and I'd like to tell you about our brand new show, A Super Smiley Adventure. Our show explores adventures with animals. They can be traveling, out in the world trips, or inner journeys where our animals lead us to inspiration and self-discovery, or just plain fun adventures. Join us here on Pet Life Radio on A Super Smiley Adventure. Good boy.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio, and we're here with author Jim Gorant, author of the book The Lost Dogs, Michael Vick's Dogs, and their tale of rescue and redemption. Now, Jim, the response to the book, obviously overwhelming, New York Times bestseller, so big kudos on that. What did you learn most about writing the book and writing the stories in the book, especially compared to writing for the magazine?
Well, I don't think it's that different. You know what? To me, I just always try and focus on, telling the story. What happened. What makes this interesting and compelling, and how can I present this information that's going to enlighten people and move them, but also keep them interested. And so that's one of my focuses. I've gotten a number of emails from people over time where they said, I bought the book, I started reading it, and I finished it the same day, or I finished it the next day. And to me, that's always one of the most satisfying things to hear, because I really strive to do it in a way that's going to hold someone's interest. And to hear that they were sort of glued to it enough, to power through it in one shot or two shots is always makes me happy.
Absolutely. It's getting the message out there, and it is very compelling. Obviously, you have the dogs and the story, and the whole angle with Michael Vick being involved definitely makes it intriguing stories inside the book. Jim, if you had to pinpoint one thing that you'd like the readers to walk away from after reading the book, do you have a feeling for what that one thing would be?
Well, I think it's just what we were talking about before. I think this idea that that every dog's an individual. Someone once, when I was doing the research, used the term to me, don't be a breedist. It's not about, you could say some general things about a breed, sure, just like you can about people. Like I use the example, I'm Greek, so you could make some general statements about Greeks, that may be true in a larger sense, but you're not going to meet me or any other Greek person and just assume all those things are true about them. And it's the same with the dog. You want to say what you want to say about a pit bull. They're high energy, they have a high drive, they're smart. And in general, that may be true, but anytime you meet any individual pit bull, you've got to judge that dog for itself. And there's a very wide variety. You get lazy couch potato pit bulls, and you get those pit bulls that just want to run all day, and everything in between. So, as much as you think you know about dogs and dogs in general, anytime you meet a dog, just treat it as an individual and go from there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I tell people that all the time. There's certain things, talking about dogs, cats, whatever it may be, certain characteristics of the breed, but for the most part, definitely all of them have their own unique personality, and you have to get to know that personality to see if it fits in with your lifestyle and see if you can have a great relationship with it. Jim, where can people find out more about The Lost Dogs and pick up a copy of it?
Well, we do have a website, thelostdogsbook.com, and there's, besides, there's some links there if you want to buy the book. We also got some cool stuff, some videos and some photo galleries and some other interesting stuff on there. Links to a lot of the organizations that took the dogs and were instrumental in the whole process, not only of writing the book, but in the process of sort of saving and rehabbing the dogs, so you can find out more information on them. And there's a Facebook page for it, The Lost Dogs, so you can go there. And, it's out there now. The paper book just came out 2 or 3 weeks ago, so that's in stores now, any store. It's also in Costco, I believe. So it's out there.
It's out there, so everybody go pick up a copy of it. You won't be unhappy that you did. It's got a nice, like the afterword that you put in there, some new afterwords in it as well. And I really like the information in the back of the book that lists some of the rescue organizations and people that are involved, not only in the case, but in the rescue and recovery and rehabilitation of the dogs.
Yeah, that was one of the great things about the paperback, was I got to write a new afterword for it, where I got to go into some of these issues. Like, one of the things I'm always asked about is Michael Vick, and do you believe he's sincere, and sort of what's your take on him and all that. So it was a chance to address that. It was a chance to update some of the information about what had happened with some of the dogs, and so that was really a cool thing to be able to add to the paperback. So that's a nice benefit for that that's out there now.
Yeah, like I said, I imagine you get asked that question quite often, and I think everybody, if you're close enough, obviously, to Michael Vick and everyone, you may know it a little bit better for real, but for the rest of us out here, we really don't know. We don't see it that often, so it's really hard to gauge the sincerity behind it and what effort he's putting behind it on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and it's true. One of the things I say to people is that, they say, do you believe he's sincere or not? And I said, well, so far for now, he's saying and doing all the right things. Whether or not he believes it, I don't know, but he's certainly he's doing what he needs to do. And I said, dogfighting is going to be a part of Michael Vick's obituary. When he dies, it's going to be part of his life story. Now, whether it's the lead paragraph, whether it's a few sentences in the middle, or a whole section, that depends on what he does from here on out. So all we can do is he continues to keep doing other things, continues to keep trying to help solve the problem, and then 30, 40 years now, whenever it is, we'll look back and say, you know what, it was sincere. But until then, we won't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know better than anybody covering sports stars for all these years. Some are a little bit less than anxious to get out there and admit that they've done something wrong and then do the follow-up behind it to show that they're recovered or that they are doing something positive with it.
Yeah, hopefully this is one of the examples of the opposite.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Jim, thanks for coming on the show today. We appreciate it. Everybody pick up a copy of The Lost Dogs. And as Jim mentioned, it just came out in paperback, has the wonderful afterword out on the back end. And read about it, track what's going on with the dogs, join the Facebook account. And, of course, you can go on the website, thelostdogsbook.com, and track what's going on there as well. So, Jim Gorant, thanks for joining Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Oh, so happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Well, we're coming to the end of the show today. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Once again, thanks Jim Gorant and the wonderful book, The Lost Dogs. Thanks, Jim, for coming on the show today. I'd like to thank our sponsors and producers for putting on such a great show and making the show possible. Really appreciate it. To find out more about me, Tim Link, and other guests I've interviewed on the show, you can go to the Animal Rights tab on Pet Life Radio. Visit PetLifeRadio.com, click on Animal Rights, and while you're there, check out the blog, all the latest information on there as well. Download the other interviews, and we'll keep you updated on all the wonderful authors and writers we're going to be having on the show into the future. And, of course, you can always check out the other hosts and other shows. There's a whole plethora of various shows on Pet Life Radio. You can find them all and download them all for free at PetLifeRadio.com. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for the show, please email me. You can email me at tim@PetLifeRadio.com. It's tim@PetLifeRadio.com, and I will do my best to answer your questions, entertain your comments, and bring on the best guests that you want to hear the most from on the show. So until next time, write a great story about the animals in your life, share it in a blog, article, or in a book. And who knows, you may be the next guest on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Thanks for joining.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.